Hello and welcome to the Center of Innovation Excellence webinar on best practices. My name is Devon Gercher and I'm joined today with Michelle Jones, Executive Vice President Global Growth of StageGate International, and Ken Miller, Vice President and General Manager Food Service, the J.M. Smucker Company. We're going to be revealing information from our third report through the Center of Innovation Excellence called New Product Development, Best Practices in Food Service. This paper and other reports issued through the Center of Innovation Excellence are available on our website in the Industry Resources section. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website next week in case you want to listen to it again or share it with a friend. Because we are recording, please mute your phones. We will not be taking questions during this webinar. However, you can type them in the chat area on the webinar or email them to us and we will answer any that come in. Before I hand the controls over to Michelle and to Ken, I wanted to give everyone on the phone some background about IFMA and the Center of Innovation Excellence, fondly known as CIE. First, a little bit about IFMA. Our primary membership is food service manufacturers and those providers that service them. IFMA is over 60 years old and we act as an educator and facilitator of common issues or concerns in the industry. Our activities are based on member need and are prioritized by our board of 30 member companies. We focus on 5 areas: connectivity, meaning between members, providers, and channel partners; furthering best practices; deriving and revealing market insights; promoting human resource development; and consolidating into a digestible format the regulations and other legislation coming out of Washington. Innovation is the lifeblood of our industry, and in working through our operator customers, it creates consumer demand and raises profit margins for all. 3 years ago, a strategic analysis of manufacturers revealed that many of the larger food service manufacturing companies had innovation processes that were handed down from their retail brethren, and that they were of differing levels of sophistication. Obviously, trying to measure the success of an innovation was difficult because there were not general metrics to do this. The manufacturers realized that on projects that had voice of the customer, these were even more confusing, resource draining, and politically frustrating than other innovation processes. And the question kept coming up: why does food service innovation have to be so painful, and why are there no standards? To answer this question, a group of forward-thinking individuals banded together to form and develop innovation standards. When you look at this roster, you get a good idea of the dedication and years of experience these organizations have devoted to innovation, thousands of years collectively. And this is what we pooled together with CIE. The group decided to partner with innovation expert StageGate International to help develop standards not only for IFMA members, but for the entire food service industry. To give you an understanding of what work has been done by the committee and StageGate, here is our roadmap, which reveals 4 steps or phases. 3. Each phase provided an output of learning. As you can see, Phase 1, we collected foundational understanding from both suppliers and operators. Phase 2 was a large-scale research study to reveal benchmarks. Again, manufacturers and operators were surveyed there. And Phase 3 is what we're presenting today, which is the best practices in food service innovation. So without further ado, let me hand it over to Michelle Jones of StageGate International. Michelle?
Thank you very much, Devon and Ken. And I'm listening to your introduction, and really the two of you should be commended for your leadership efforts with the Center of Innovation Excellence. This is really important stuff, and the body of knowledge that is being created around this whole business of new products and business of innovation is providing just tremendous benefits to companies in this industry. And so I just want to thank you both and commend you. Until last year, business leaders in food service really had no definitive data to confirm success rates or fail rates with new products and with practices that are specific to food service industry. And yet thousands of business leaders every year are preparing business plans and are having to figure out how much of their company's money and resources they're going to bet on new products. And without having this body of knowledge or information, it creates a lot of unnecessary risk for business leaders. And I would hazard to guess is probably or likely holding back many companies from even pursuing new products in as an aggressive form as they possibly could in their business strategies because this information is missing. And so if you happen to be in this kind of a situation, you're going to want to stay tuned for this presentation because this is partly what the Center of Innovation Excellence is trying to address. All right, so the CIE, as Devon finally recalls or nicknames the Center of Innovation Excellence, released a groundbreaking study last year that validated a great number of product success rates. And I think what was most impressive from my perspective is that the performance of the top 25% of all of the participants, and this is a study that in total we had approximately 250 companies from the food service industry participating, both manufacturers and operators. And for this particular study, we separated out the manufacturers' results alone. 1 in every 4 companies, 1 in every 4 manufacturers is 7 times more likely to launch a commercial success. And they earn 22% more sales and 20% more profit from their new product launches. And that's really quite impressive. Now, new products is a highly lucrative business for these companies, and so they tend to focus on it more so than others. And so what we've done is we've lowered the microscope to take a closer look at how these top performers, these top 25% of companies, approach product innovation differently from the rest of us. And we discovered that the best use, number 1, a stage gate process to accelerate their ideas from inception to launch. But more importantly, they take the time to adapt it so that it's flexible and scalable for use in the food service industry. And it's flexible and adaptable to all of their different project needs. Their cross-functional execution of the entire process, right from idea all the way to launch, is also of significant quality. And this industry, as you know, is very fast-moving and it's very competitive. And yet the top performers did not feel that their process slowed them down. In fact, it was quite the opposite. They reported that it helped them to be more successful when collaborating with their partners, both customer partners and supply partners. And what we discovered really is that the top performers developed almost a respect and a discipline in their culture and the way they approach developing new products. There we go. In particular, there are 4 practices that the top performers pay a significant amount of attention to. And these are the practices that are predominantly the substance of the most recent report called the Best Practice Report for New Product Development in Food Service. And this was recently released by the Center of Innovation Excellence. And we lowered that microscope even lower to a new level of detail to uncover tools, procedures, and frameworks that these top performing companies were using to generate higher quality execution throughout their entire process. The 4 areas that we decided to focus in on were making tough project selection decisions, developing and communicating a product innovation strategy, customer collaboration, and continuous learning, or what is also known in industry as post-launch review. And so our learnings coming out of our projects, both successes and the failures. The top performers were zeroing in on these very specific practices with a very impressive discipline. And when I mean discipline, it doesn't mean that they're always implementing forms and checklists. What I mean is that they're focused on executing these 4 areas with great success, and so they figure out what works best for their particular type of culture. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. In the top performing companies, the business leaders, especially when it comes to new products, it was clear that their role is to make a lot of decisions and to make them quickly. In fact, timely decision making is proven to be one of the most successful ways to achieve speed to market, and in this industry, speed really does matter. The most prevalent practice is the adoption of a holistic set of decision criteria used to evaluate projects, and most especially those pet projects or customer projects that are brought forth by the leaders themselves. And so the very first top left corner, you'll see something called New Product Development Project Evaluation Criteria. And I want you to observe the difference here. Top performers look at or evaluate projects from a very holistic point of view. They're using 6 criteria: strategic fit, product competitive advantage, market attractiveness, competency requirements, so that means what do we need in order to be able to build it, technical feasibility, how difficult is it to actually develop, and financial reward. On the contrary, the poorest performing companies in this research study zeroed in on financial attractiveness only, whereas top performers took a much more holistic point of view. So I think that's one of the most important things coming away from the decision-making framework. You'll also probably ask yourself, like, why would there be such a focus on product and competitive advantage? And there's some method to our madness here. Almost all the top-performing companies, when they looked at all 6 of these criteria, had commented that they understood from previous research that this particular criteria is 3 times more strongly correlated with better performance than anything else. And so a strategic drive to strive for products that offer a true advantage, something better than what your customer is using today, became very important. So much so that they baked it right into the criteria that were being used to evaluate projects. Okay? Now, another interesting practice is scoring. And so if you take those 6 criteria and you move over to the tool in the top right corner, those criteria are established in some kind of a scorecard. And the scorecard can be used to create a success score. And that success score is used by these top performers to force rank projects, making it much easier to spot the weakest projects that have the lowest scores. And that becomes important when you have more projects than you have resources to complete them all. And they don't stop there, though. Accountability is also baked right into their decision process, because each cross-functional decision maker is requested to independently score each of these projects. And so when you take a look at the third area called the Project Attractiveness Score, there's a tool in this report that shows or highlights how each of those decision makers, the different cross-functional decision makers, have scored the project on each of the criteria. But what's most important here is not just the score that's created, but it's also the rich discussion that ensues, because this can be visible in front of all of the decision makers. It provides an accelerator, I guess, to alignment, if you may be, because the decision makers can see where the low scores are on the different criteria. They can also see how their score differs from other decision makers. And this creates the discussion that's needed in order to be able to achieve alignment. And oftentimes executives will share information that they didn't think was important but that they knew, and it might actually cause other gatekeepers or decision makers to change their scores for the project. And so as you may, that whole discussion helps the executives get a better handle on the true potential of those projects. It's also a way to spot weaker projects, and especially projects that score weakly in areas that a company has no ability to be able to change moving forward. And last but certainly not least, as decision makers are involved in decision making on so many project evaluations, they become laser focused on the type of information that they need to make better decisions. And this is what they ask the teams to supply them. No more, no less, at all of the gate decisions or decision points. Now naturally, they're going to focus more so on the business of new products because that is their role. The teams focus on the technical execution of the development and the marketing and the manufacturing activities. But it is the decision makers that focus on the business of innovation. And naturally, what they can sort of do, I guess, to organize their decisions into 3 key questions that they ask themselves with every single project at every gate. And that is, can we make it? Can we do it? And if we build this, will people buy it? And top performers devote their leader's role to the decision factory. And that is essentially what these top performers have created in pulling all of these practices together into their stage gate process, is a decision factory that enables quick decisions, good decisions, and this helps to achieve speed to market. Now, all of these discussions at the gate meetings, they often reveal how little an organization has, or the people within an organization have aligned to the business strategy. I've heard many debates at gate meetings on whether a project was truly strategic and deserving of the resources that it was requesting. And so, to me, it's no surprise that the top performers in food service have started to shift their focus to be more proactive and define a clear product innovation strategy. And many of you may be surprised by the framework that is so encompassing of information that is very specific to new product strategy. But this is another practice that these top performers implement with great discipline because of the benefits of this improved alignment across the organization. Now let's take a look at each of the elements so that you can appreciate what these top performing companies are actually articulating when it comes to each element in their strategy. The first is the objective and the role of the new product development department or program. This varies from many, many organizations from one to the next. And I know that when I speak with new product organizations, they naturally presume or assume that their approach to product innovation is fairly similar to many other companies, but this is not so. There's a great difference. In some organizations, the role of new product development really is there to help sales execute on customer orders. And that is a very specific role that they play, and that's it. And that's fine if that is your strategy. In some other organizations, the role may be to be a profit center, launching products into new strategic markets that provide the company a competitive advantage. And there are many other roles that a new product development program can play or can serve in serving a company's business strategy. But the point is that the top performers take the time to be very clear on what those objectives are and what the role is, and they articulate that to everyone, so everyone in the organization understands how to leverage the product development team. They also identify strategic arenas, and this is very important. Strategic arenas are the focus for what products, what markets, what technologies and day parts are most important to the company. And most important because it helps to advance the business strategy. And the intention here is to allocate resources to the very strategic arenas that are most important to the company. And the thinking is that if we spend our money where it matters most strategically to us, then new products help to advance our strategy. But too often, unfortunately, what happens is that we don't define this up front, and we end up reacting to a lot of ideas that come in here and there, customer orders that come in, aren't planned, we weren't expecting them, but we need to react to them on a regular basis. And it creates, in some cases, a bit of chaos in organizations. And so rather than constantly finding yourself reacting to every idea, every project request, every customer request, these top performers try to organize their strategic arenas and determine what percentage of all their resources they're going to allocate to each of those types of arenas. It helps to articulate what's important from an innovation perspective to the company. Okay. They also identify innovation capabilities that are needed, and they nurture those innovation capabilities by providing training and support, and if need be, purchasing or recruiting additional resources to help complement those needs. And again, the last area, but certainly not the least, is the strategic partners. The top performers, interestingly, do not wait for people to approach them, customers or suppliers. They tend to try to focus on a go-forward plan, identify the partners that are going to be most important to helping them achieve their strategy, and they approach them in such a way that helps to secure a relationship and build a relationship. And in doing this, they also leverage a framework of sorts that we've learned in working with them called a new product collaboration framework. And the premise here is that they recognize that not all projects are the same and not all partners are the same. Some partners are in the bottom part of this framework, which are the lower cost suppliers that are dependable, and dependability is what matters most for those types of relationships. At the opposite extreme, though, and at the very top of this framework, is another type of partnership, and that is partners that help to develop new products, partners that will share in the risk and share in the reward. And then, of course, there are varying supply relationships or partner relationships in between the two. Point is here that top performers will actually sit down and try to figure out and place their different customers and their different suppliers in each type of category. And the goal here is to ensure that the right types of projects have the right type of partner and they're receiving the right amount of support, the right amount of resources, and the right amount of visibility so that we can ensure their success. Oftentimes what we see is a mismatch. You know, your most important customer or your highest volume customer approaches you for a strategic partner project, and there may be a mismatch of what the partner is bringing to the table and what the project requires. And so oftentimes projects are either under-resourced and don't have quite the visibility to leadership support that they will need to be successful, or the opposite. And that mismatch, it really slows both people down, both partners down. It adds risk where it's unnecessary, and it creates friction with an otherwise excellent partner of high potential. And so this serves as a nice framework to help the leaders and anyone involved in developing an innovation strategy to identify the types of partners you require for the types of projects that you're interested in pursuing from a strategic perspective. And the last practice area is a framework for continuous improvement. And this is a critical area, but it's also the newest area. I would say that this particular area involved the least amount of formality, whereas the first three areas that we discussed, there was quite a bit of robust thought that had gone into creating frameworks, whereas this is the newest area. And one of the executives at one of these top-performing companies, he said, our stage gate process is our company's memory of all of our successes and all of our failures. We evolve it to capture what we collectively have learned project after project after project. And it's the only way to ensure that we do not repeat the same mistakes over and over again. And I thought that was such a nice way of capturing the importance of a continuous improvement approach to product innovation. There were 4 areas that I thought were particularly interesting that these top performers spent time revisiting and understanding. And the first one is project selection. And this may come as a surprise to you, but the top performers, yes, they ask themselves, how can we improve our decision making? How can we make better selection? How can we make those project selection decisions faster? How can we improve our evaluation? And so the leaders themselves put themselves up for review and self-assessment, which I thought was really telling of a top-performing class act. Second area is how can our teams improve their performance? The teams add a tremendous amount of value in how they approach the activities within each stage. And that can differ depending on how the team approaches each project. And so they can add a lot of value, and they can also learn from each of their projects and each of their stages within their projects where they may make improvements. Also, the third area is process effectiveness. So did the process help us? Was it an enabler, or did it hinder us in some way, shape, or form? That's a really important question to ask, because a stage gate process should be adding value to projects, not hindering them, not slowing them down. It shouldn't be bureaucratic. It should help to improve success. And if that's not happening, then there's a problem with the design of that stage gate process. And so you're going to want to capture what that is and fix that in time for the next round of projects. And the last area is something called red flags, and I thought this was, again, a really neat discovery. And this essentially focuses on known trouble spots. And the idea behind this is that these top performers have figured out that almost all problems can be categorized into roughly 7 or 8 types of problems. And if the teams are made aware of these common pitfalls, they can monitor these in real time. And this will help them get ahead of the problem and prevent it, or as soon as it happens, to spot it and seek help from someone who's a little bit more experienced, or seek help from resource owners to help free up resources that might be able to help address the problem. And this can help speed up problem resolution. And this was a really neat discovery. That's the fourth area of the 4 practice areas that we looked at. Now, I covered each of these practice areas at a very high level, and my point of view was really from a research study observation. Ken Miller is an excellent executive with a lot of experience developing new products and a lot of successes under his belt. A lot of learnings, too, along the way, I know Ken. But Ken is going to complement this summary of these 4 areas with his practical experience. Ken?
Thank you, Michelle, and good morning, everyone. Let me start by confessing that I am not an R&D specialist, nor do I have a technical background. That said, I have had enough exposure to and involvement in the innovation and new product development process to have some thinking regarding innovation best practices, especially in the food service context. There is no doubt that innovation will play an increasingly important role as the industry rallies around the concept of consumer value and demand creation. As we think about the innovation decision process, that is, what to do, and equally importantly, what not to do, fundamentally, all projects should align to the broader strategic plan behind the business units themselves. Taken a step further, business units may develop their own innovation strategy that further outline the key goals and direction for their respective R&D efforts. Of course, many projects can and will fit against strategy, and therefore will compete for finite resources. Thus, a formal process of prioritization and resource allocation is required. Resources for most companies can be constrained, whether it's capital, organizational, or human resources. Focus against the most strategic of priorities, where resources can be applied in a highly directed, efficient way, can maximize results. Finally, keeping senior leadership abreast of projects and seeking decisions at certain pivotal path points can have a significant benefit. At Smucker Food Service, we have instituted an Innovation Council, which has oversight of the innovative process and which makes decisions regarding individual projects at various gates along the way. Included in this council are myself, our Vice President of Marketing, Vice President of Sales, Director of R&D, Director of Finance, and the Senior Manager of Innovation. For the Smucker Food Service team, this has proven to be a very useful forum by which to sharpen our focus, to maintain a sense of urgency, and to make adjustments along the way. Moving along to point number 2, establishing strategic growth targets for innovation within a company or business unit provides not only a future vision for innovation, but also establishes quantifiable metrics around which to measure overall contribution from its innovation team. Innovation strategies normally include metrics of this sort. Metrics, however, are best if established by the leadership of the business so as not to give in to metrics which might have a marketing, R&D, or sales bias. Strategies will also call out the market and segment priorities as well as the mix of home runs, doubles, or singles desired by the company. Collaborating with food service trading partners on the innovation front can and will be a powerful way for food service manufacturers to co-create value and demand with consumers. This applies to both proprietary formulation work with customers and to innovative branded product solutions. While it may seem obvious to those on the call today, the degree of engagement or sharing of resources between trading partners will vary, as custom work generally requires an intense level of engagement. From a branded standpoint, manufacturers can and will consult with customers to gain input and insights, but probably more importantly, can gain traction with customers by providing insights gained through the manufacturer's own research and experience base. Either way, this collaboration strengthens partnershiping principles and the common cause to enhance the consumer's away-from-home eating experience. Perhaps one of the most overlooked practices in food service innovation is a disciplined approach to post-launch review. In order to effectively determine success or failure, we have found it to be critical to extract metrics 1 year post-launch and compare those to the original assumptions upon which any one project was founded. While a number of software tools exist today for measurement of post-launch success, we have instituted Accolade, a software package certified, amongst others, by StageGate. A faithful review of market results versus the metrics in the Accolade model provide us with key learnings about the new product in question, but also about the innovative process in the broader sense. These learnings can be translated to more efficient new product planning going forward. While we are clear on the need for post-launch evaluation, admittedly, we are still in process of evolving our proficiency in this area. Hopefully, some of the comments that I have offered will at least resonate with your own experiences in food service innovation. I think it is fair to say that achievement of best practices is a journey. However, it starts with a strong leadership commitment to the power of innovation as a driver of differentiation in top-line sales growth. Thank you for the time you have allowed me, and with that, I'll pass it over to Devon. Devon?
Thanks, Ken, and thank you, Michelle. As mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, you can purchase the white paper and the 4 interactive worksheets that Michelle previewed on the IFMA site. You simply go to the resources section to download the publication form. You can also visit the CIE page under resources. There are articles and other tools to increase your learning and add depth to your existing innovation process. On behalf of Michelle, Ken, the CIE committee, and IFMA, we thank you all for your time today. If you have specific questions or would like to learn more about the Center or the consulting resources of StageGate International, please contact Michelle Jones or myself. Thank you.